My friends, gather close. In the ancient scrolls of the Shaolin, we learn that the river of time flows without mercy, unseen currents pulling us forward, carving canyons from mountains, whispering of impermanence. Today that river is swelling. Its waters rise not from rain alone but from the fever of our earth. Time is running out. The urgency of climate change is not a distant thunder, it is the drumbeat at our feet, demanding we awaken. Imagine the bamboo grove of my youth, resilient stalks bending in the wind, roots deep in soil that has held for centuries. Now picture those groves ablaze, their green silenced by flames fed by our own forgotten balance. The ice caps, ancient guardians of the poles, melt into tears that flood our shores. Storms rage fiercer, as if the dragon of the skies has been unchained. This is no myth. It is the echo of our actions rippling back as consequence. We stand at the edge of a precipice, not of stone but of choice. The air grows heavy with the breath of excess, fossil shadows we cling to like outdated forms. Yet in this urgency lies our greatest teaching. Crisis is the forge of discipline. Just as the monk rises before dawn to train, so must we rise now before the light fades entirely. Time slips through our fingers like sand from a broken hourglass, but in each grain is the potential for redirection. Hear me. The planet does not beg, it warns. Coral reefs bleach like forgotten mandalas. Forests exhale their last sighs into a warming sky. Billions of lives, human, animal, unseen, teeter on this thread, but despair is the thief of action. Instead, draw from the well of Wu Wei, the effortless flow of harmony. We must cultivate awareness, not as a luxury but as a weapon against inertia. Plant the seed of change in your breath, your step, your vote. Let urgency be the spark that ignites the inner fire, burning away complacency. Brothers and sisters of this shared path, the clock tolls not in judgment, but in invitation. Time is running out, yes, but in that running find your stride. Train your mind to see the interconnected web. Your choice here echoes there from the melting glacier to the child's tomorrow. We are not victims of the storm, we are its stewards. Rise then, breathe deep, act with the precision of a master's strike. For in reclaiming balance we do not merely save the world, we rediscover our own unbreakable essence. In the ancient wisdom of the Shaolin Temple, where I have spent countless hours in meditation and training, the concept of impermanence stands as a cornerstone of understanding the universe's rhythm. Time, much like the relentless flow of a mighty river carving through stone, does not pause for hesitation or regret. It surges forward with an unyielding force, indifferent to the pleas of those who linger in denial. In the context of climate change, this impermanence manifests as a stark reminder that our planet's delicate equilibrium is not eternal. The glaciers that have stood sentinel for millennia are now retreating, their icy forms dissolving into the oceans at an accelerating pace. Coral reefs, once vibrant tapestries of life teeming with color and diversity, are bleaching into ghostly skeletons under the assault of warming waters. These changes are not abstract prophecies from distant scrolls, they are the tangible echoes of time's unforgiving march. Each passing year without decisive action erodes the foundations of ecosystems that have sustained humanity for generations. The river of time, swollen by rising global temperatures, threatens to overflow its banks, submerging coastlines and displacing communities who have built their lives along its shores. To ignore this is to court irreversible loss, where species vanish into the annals of history, and fertile lands turn barren under the sun's intensified gaze. Yet within this flow lies a profound lesson. Impermanence is not merely destruction but a call to awaken. Just as the monk observes the fleeting bloom of a cherry blossom, we must recognize that our window for intervention is narrowing. The carbon emissions we release today will linger in the atmosphere for centuries, compounding the heat that disrupts weather patterns and amplifies natural disasters. Hurricanes grow fiercer, droughts extend their grip, and floods ravage with unprecedented fury, all markers of time slipping away. In Shaolin practice, we train to align with the natural order, understanding that resistance to change only breeds suffering. Here, the urgency demands we shed complacency, embracing the discipline to act before the river's current becomes an unstoppable torrent. Drawing deeper from the teachings passed down through generations of masters, the impermanence of time in climate change urges an immediate awakening, much like the sudden strike of a bamboo staff in training to jolt the mind from slumber. Consider the Arctic permafrost, that frozen vault holding vast stores of methane, a gas far more potent than carbon dioxide in trapping heat. As temperatures climb, this ground thaws, releasing bubbles of ancient emissions that hasten the warming cycle in a feedback loop of doom. Scientists warn that we are approaching tipping points, thresholds beyond which recovery becomes impossible, where the Amazon rainforest, the lungs of our planet, could transform into a savanna, releasing billions of tons of stored carbon. This is the river's unforgiving nature. It does not offer second chances once the cascade begins. In my own reflections during solitary walks through mist-shrouded mountains, I see parallels to the Shaolin path of mindfulness. Time's flow teaches us that every moment is pregnant with potential for redirection, but delay invites catastrophe. The loss of biodiversity, with 1 million species teetering on extinction, underscores this truth, each vanished creature a thread pulled from the intricate web of life, weakening the whole. Forests that once absorbed our excesses are now being felled at rates that outpace regeneration, turning carbon sinks into sources. The urgency is palpable in rising sea levels, already encroaching on island nations and coastal cities, displacing millions and erasing cultural heritages. To awaken means to internalize this impermanence, not as paralyzing fear, but as fuel for resolute action. It calls for global policies that curb emissions, for individual choices that reduce waste, and for a collective shift toward renewable energies that harmonize with the Earth's rhythms. The river does not forgive inaction, it simply continues eroding what we hold dear until nothing remains but lessons unheeded. Yet in the heart of this impermanence lies the essence of Shaolin resilience, the understanding that awakening to time's limits can forge unbreakable resolve. Picture the Yangtze River, a lifeline in my homeland, now strained by pollution and altered monsoons driven by climate shifts. Its waters, once predictable in their seasonal ebb and flow, now swell erratically, threatening floods that devastate farmlands and homes. This mirrors the broader planetary crisis. Time's flow is accelerating the melt of Himalayan glaciers, which feed rivers sustaining over 1 billion people in Asia. Without awakening, we risk water scarcity that could ignite conflicts and famines, irreversible scars on humanity's shared journey. In training, we learn that true strength emerges from acknowledging vulnerability. Confronting climate impermanence demands humility before nature's power. The loss extends beyond the physical, to the spiritual disconnection from the earth that has allowed such imbalance. Ancient texts speak of harmony with the Tao, the way of the universe, yet modern pursuits of endless growth have severed this bond, hastening the clock toward collapse. Awakening urges us to reclaim that connection through sustainable practices, reforestation efforts that restore balance, innovations in clean technology that slow the river's rush, and education that instills reverence for impermanence in future generations. The unforgiving nature of time in this crisis is a teacher, compelling us to transcend ego and unite in purpose. As the polar bears roam shrinking ice floes and migratory birds falter in disrupted patterns, we see the interconnectedness of all things. Each delayed commitment to emission reductions amplifies the risk of runaway warming, where even modest temperature rises trigger chain reactions of loss. In the quiet of meditation, I envision a world where this awakening transforms urgency into empowerment, channeling the river's force toward renewal rather than ruin. The signs of imbalance in our world are not subtle whispers but resounding alarms. as vivid and undeniable as the crack of a temple bell splitting the dawn silence. In the Shaolin way, we are taught to observe nature as a mirror of inner truth, yet today that mirror reflects a planet in distress, its harmony disrupted by humanity's relentless hand. Wildfires, no longer mere seasonal events, rage with a ferocity that consumes entire landscapes, from the eucalyptus forests of Australia to the ancient pines of California. These flames, fueled by prolonged droughts and soaring temperatures, leave behind ash where biodiversity once thrived, reducing ecosystems to charred echoes. The Amazon, often called the Earth's lungs, burns not just from fire but from deforestation, its canopy thinning as loggers and agriculture encroach, releasing stored carbon that further heats the atmosphere. Meanwhile, the ice caps, those stoic guardians of the poles, are melting at rates unseen in human history, their retreats swelling oceans and threatening coastal communities with inundation. Storms, once predictable in their cycles, now unleash their fury with unprecedented intensity, as hurricanes and typhoons batter shores with winds and floods that reshape entire regions. In my meditations, I see these events as nature's cry, not of weakness but of warning, urging us to heed the imbalance we have sown. The coral reefs, vibrant ecosystems that support a quarter of marine life, bleach into lifeless skeletons under warming seas, their colors fading like forgotten mandalas erased by time. This vivid disruption is a testament to our departure from the natural order, a call to restore the balance we have fractured. These signs are not isolated but interconnected, each a thread in the unraveling tapestry of Earth's delicate equilibrium. Consider the Arctic, where warming occurs at twice the global rate, thawing permafrost that releases methane, a gas far more potent than carbon dioxide in trapping heat. This accelerates the warming cycle, a feedback loop that amplifies the chaos, much like a poorly executed form in martial arts that spirals into error. In my homeland, the Yangtze River, once a steady lifeblood, now contends with erratic monsoons and pollution, its flow disrupted by climate shifts that threaten millions who depend on its waters. The forests, our planet's great carbon sinks, are diminishing faster than they can regenerate, with deforestation in places like Borneo and the Congo Basin turning allies into adversaries as they release stored carbon. The oceans, absorbing much of the excess heat and carbon, grow acidic, eroding the shells of creatures vital to the food chain. Storms like Cyclone Amphan or Hurricane Katrina, amplified by warmer waters, devastate with a force that speaks of nature's disrupted rhythm. These are not mere events but symptoms of a deeper malaise, a planet pushed beyond its limits by over-reliance on fossil fuels, unchecked industrialization, and a disregard for the interconnected web of life. In Shaolin practice, we learn that ignoring imbalance in the body leads to collapse. So too with Earth, where each storm, fire, or melting glacier signals a system straining under our collective weight. In the quiet of my training grounds, I reflect on how these disruptions mirror humanity's inner discord, a failure to live in harmony with the Tao, the natural way. The loss of biodiversity, with 1 million species facing extinction, is a vivid wound, each vanished creature a note silenced in the symphony of existence. Migratory birds falter as changing climates disrupt their ancient roots. Pollinators like bees dwindle, threatening crops that feed billions. Even the air we breathe grows heavy with particulates, as cities choke under smog and rural areas inhale the smoke of distant fires. These signs are not abstract, they touch every life, from the farmer in Bangladesh facing salinized fields, to the urban dweller enduring heat waves that strain power grids. The imbalance is evident in rising sea levels, already swallowing islands like Kiribati and encroaching on cities like Miami and Jakarta, displacing millions and erasing cultural heritages. In Shaolin philosophy, we are taught to see the world as a single breath, where every exhale affects the whole. Our relentless consumption, Burning coal, oil and gas has exhaled a poison that now returns to us as floods, heat and famine. These vivid disruptions are not punishments but teachings, urging us to realign with nature's rhythm through deliberate mindful action. The signs are clear. We have disrupted the harmony of Earth's systems, and their cries demand we restore balance before the damage becomes irrevocable. In the Shaolin temple, where the first light of dawn pierces the mist to signal the start of training, we learn that true strength is forged in the crucible of discipline, not comfort. The urgency of climate change is such a crucible, a crisis that demands we rise before the world's light fades entirely, much like a monk rises to perfect their form through relentless practice. This global challenge, with its rising temperatures and collapsing ecosystems, is not a distant threat but a forge for personal and collective transformation. The melting Arctic ice, which releases methane and accelerates warming, signals a tipping point that could render entire regions uninhabitable. Forests, once vast and resilient, are shrinking under the weight of deforestation and wildfires, with the Amazon alone losing 11,000 square kilometers annually, turning carbon sinks into sources. This crisis mirrors the Shaolin principle that adversity sharpens the spirit. It compels us to confront our over-reliance on fossil fuels, which contribute over 75% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Just as a novice monk learns to channel pain into focus, we must transform the fear of climate collapse into disciplined action, adopting renewable energy, reducing waste, and advocating for systemic change. The urgency is a teacher, stripping away complacency and demanding we cultivate resilience through intentional choices, much like perfecting a stance through countless repetitions. To ignore this forge is to invite a world where rising seas displace 200 million people by 2050, and food insecurity from disrupted agriculture threatens billions. Discipline in this crisis means aligning our actions with the Earth's rhythms, forging a path to sustainability before the window for reversal closes. The forge of crisis, like the grueling Shaolin practice of holding a stance until muscles scream, teaches us that discipline is the antidote to chaos. Climate change, with its intensifying storms and heat waves, is a chaos born of imbalance. Global carbon dioxide levels have surpassed 420 parts per million, a threshold unseen in millions of years. This imbalance, driven by industrialization and unchecked consumption, mirrors the inner turmoil of a mind untrained in mindfulness. In my training, I learned that discipline is not mere restriction but a liberation through focus. Similarly, addressing climate urgency requires precise collective effort. Policies that cap emissions, innovations like solar and wind that now account for 12% of global electricity, and individual shifts toward plant-based diets, which could cut emissions by up to 8 gigatons annually. The crisis demands we train our societies as we train our bodies, with consistency and foresight. Hurricanes, now 10 to 15% wetter due to warmer oceans, and droughts affecting 1.5 billion people yearly, are not random but the fruits of neglect. Discipline means redirecting investments from coal and oil, which still receive $1 trillion in annual subsidies, toward reforestation and clean technology. It means governments and communities uniting, as a Shaolin disciple unites mind and body, to rebuild ecosystems, like the 350 million trees planted in Ethiopia in a single day. The forge burns hot, but through disciplined action we can temper the chaos into a renewed balance. This crisis, like the Shaolin path of enduring hardship to uncover inner strength, transforms fear into a catalyst for growth. The fear of losing coral reefs, which support 25% of marine life, or witnessing 1 million species teeter on extinction, can paralyze or empower. In the temple we are taught that fear is a signal to act, not to retreat. Climate change, with its vivid disruptions, sea levels rising 3.7 millimeters annually, threatening cities like Jakarta and Miami, demands we harness this signal. Discipline here is a collective awakening, schools teaching sustainability, businesses adopting net zero goals, and individuals reducing their carbon footprint by 20% through simple acts like minimizing energy waste. The crisis reveals our interconnectedness, as a single coal plant's emissions in one nation warm the entire planet's atmosphere. In Shaolin, we learn that true mastery is serving the whole here. It means recognizing that our choices, driving less, supporting green policies, ripple outward, cooling the forge's heat. The urgency is a call to train relentlessly, not in despair but in hope, building a world where discipline restores what chaos has unraveled, aligning humanity with the earth's ancient pulse. In the Shaolin teachings, the principle of Wu Wei, the art of effortless harmony with the natural flow, reveals that every action, no matter how small, ripples through the interconnected web of existence. This wisdom illuminates the urgency of climate change, where every individual choice, from the flick of a light switch to the policies we champion, weaves into the global tapestry of consequences. The burning of fossil fuels, responsible for over 75% of global greenhouse gas emissions since the 1980s, is not the act of a single hand but the sum of countless choices, driving gas-powered cars, consuming energy-intensive goods, or supporting industries that prioritize profit over the planet. These actions fuel the warming that drives sea levels to rise 3.7 millimeters annually, threatening to submerge low-lying nations like the Maldives and displace millions. In my meditations, I envision the Earth as a single breath, where the exhale of carbon from one city clouds the skies of another far across the globe. A farmer in Bangladesh loses fertile land to salinization from rising seas, while a child in sub-Saharan Africa faces hunger from droughts linked to the same warming. Wu Wei teaches us to act with intention, aligning our choices with the Earth's rhythm, choosing renewable energy, reducing waste, or advocating for reforestation, which could sequester 205 gigatons of carbon by 2050. Every step towards sustainability, like planting a single tree or voting for green policies, is a thread strengthening the web, proving that our responsibility is not solitary but shared across borders, species, and generations. This interconnected web binds humanity to the planet's fate, where the consequences of our collective actions echo far beyond our immediate sight, much like the disciplined movements of a Shaolin form ripple through the body to achieve balance. The deforestation of the Amazon, with 11% of its forest lost since 1970, does not merely diminish a distant ecosystem, it releases stored carbon that warms the atmosphere, altering rainfall patterns in places as far as North America and Asia. Similarly, the plastic waste choking our oceans, 8 million metric tons annually, entangles marine life and breaks down into microplastics that infiltrate the food chain, reaching even the most remote human communities. In Shaolin practice, we learn that neglecting one part of the body weakens the whole, so too ignoring our role in the global ecosystem undermines the harmony of all life. Wu Wei calls for actions that flow with nature's current, adopting plant-based diets, which could reduce individual carbon footprints by up to 2.1 tons annually, or supporting global initiatives like the Paris Agreement, which aims to limit warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius. The interconnectedness is stark in the plight of pollinators. Bees, critical to 75% of global food crops, face decline from climate-driven habitat loss. One person's choice to reduce pesticide use or plant pollinator-friendly gardens sends ripples that bolster food security worldwide. Our responsibility lies in recognizing that every act, however small, is a brushstroke on the canvas of Earth's future. The urgency of climate change demands we embrace this interconnected responsibility as stewards, not exploiters, of the planet's delicate balance. In the temple we are taught that true strength lies in serving the greater whole, a principle that applies to the 1 million species now at risk of extinction, each a vital thread in the web of life. The melting Arctic, warming at twice the global rate, releases methane that accelerates climate shifts, affecting rice yields in Asia and coffee harvests in Africa, underscoring that no community is isolated from the crisis. Wu Wei invites us to flow with purpose, supporting clean energy transitions, which now account for 12% of global electricity, or reducing personal consumption, as the average American generates 16 tons of CO2 yearly, far above the global average of 4.7 tons. Collective stewardship means nations uniting to protect carbon sinks like peatlands, which store twice as much carbon as all forests combined, or indigenous communities safeguarding 80% of global biodiversity on just 25% of the land. Every choice to recycle, conserve energy, or demand corporate accountability is an act of harmony, a step toward restoring equilibrium. The web of life connects the coral reefs dying in the Pacific to the urban dweller breathing polluted air in a distant metropolis, reminding us that our responsibility is to act as one, with mindfulness and resolve, to preserve the planet's pulse for all who share it. In the Shaolin tradition, every challenge is an invitation to uncover the unbreakable essence within, a call to rise above fear and act with the clarity of a still mind. The ticking clock of climate change is no different. It is not a sentence of doom but an urgent summons to ignite our inner fire and forge a path of resolve. The planet's warning signs: sea levels rising 3.7 millimeters annually, threatening to displace 200 million people by 2050, or the loss of 11% of the Amazon's forest since 1970, carry the weight of consequence but also the spark of opportunity. In my training, I learned that a crisis is a mirror, reflecting both our flaws and our potential for growth. Rather than succumbing to despair over melting glaciers or the 1 million species facing extinction, we are invited to channel this urgency into action, much like a monk channels breath into a precise strike. This resolve begins with individual choices, cutting personal carbon emissions by 20% through energy-efficient habits, supporting renewable energy that now powers 12% of global electricity, or voting for policies that prioritize sustainability. The clock's relentless toll is a reminder that every moment holds the power to redirect our course, planting trees that could sequester 205 gigatons of carbon by 2050, or reducing meat consumption to slash emissions by up to 8 gigatons annually. This invitation is not to dwell in fear, but to awaken the warrior within, acting with purpose to preserve the Earth's balance and our shared humanity. The call to resolve is a collective one, echoing through the interconnected web of life, where each action reverberates across continents and generations, much like a single step in a Shaolin form sets the entire sequence in motion. The crisis of climate change, with its intensifying storms, hurricanes now 10 to 15% wetter due to warmer oceans, and droughts affecting 1.5 billion people yearly, demands unity in purpose. In the temple we learn that true strength lies in serving the whole, and here it means recognizing that the coal plant in one nation warms the air for all just as a protected forest in the Congo Basin cools the planet globally. Resolve manifests in collective efforts, global agreements like the Paris Accord aiming to cap warming at 1.5 degrees Celsius, or grassroots movements like Ethiopia's planting of 350 million trees in a day. It is seen in communities adopting circular economies, reducing waste that contributes to the 8 million metric tons of plastic choking oceans annually. This invitation extends to every sphere, schools teaching sustainability to shape future stewards, businesses committing to net zero emissions, and individuals advocating for the preservation of carbon sinks like peatlands, which store twice as much carbon as all forests combined. The ticking clock is not a barrier but a rhythm, urging us to synchronize our actions with the Earth's pulse, transforming urgency into a unified force for renewal. This resolve, born from the crisis, is a rediscovery of our unbreakable essence, a return to the harmony taught by the Tao and embodied in Shaolin discipline. The loss of coral reefs, which support 25% of marine life, or the decline of pollinators critical to 75% of global food crops, are not just ecological losses but spiritual ones, signaling a disconnection from the natural order. Yet in this urgency lies the chance to reconnect, to act as stewards who honor the planet's sacred balance. Resolve means embracing mindfulness in every choice, recycling to curb landfill emissions, supporting indigenous-led conservation that protects 80% of global biodiversity, or innovating technologies like carbon capture, which could remove 10 gigatons of CO2 annually by 2050. In my meditations, I see this crisis as a dojo, where the pressure of time owns our focus, stripping away ego to reveal our shared purpose. The warming Arctic, releasing methane that accelerates global shifts, or the erratic monsoons disrupting Asia's rivers, are calls to act with precision, not panic. Each step, whether reducing the 16-ton carbon footprint of the average American or amplifying voices from vulnerable nations like Kiribati, rebuilds the bridge between humanity and Earth. This invitation to resolve is a journey inward and outward, a commitment to act with the clarity of a master, ensuring that the ticking clock becomes a catalyst for rediscovering our enduring connection to the world we inhabit. Brothers and sisters, the river of time flows unceasing, its currents carrying both our past mistakes and our potential for redemption. The urgency of climate change is not a shadow to fear but a flame to guide us, a call to awaken, to act, to reclaim the harmony we have disrupted. As the bamboo bends without breaking, so too must we adapt with resilience, weaving our choices into a tapestry of hope. Each breath you take, each step you choose is a ripple in the vast ocean of existence, shaping the world for those yet to come. The earth does not wait, but it offers us this moment, this fleeting precious now, to rise as stewards, not conquerors. Let us move with the precision of a Shaolin form, with the clarity of a still mind, and with the courage of a heart aligned with the Tao. Time is running out, but within its flow lies our power to heal, to restore, to rediscover our unbreakable essence. Step forward then, with unwavering resolve. The river flows on, and we must swim as one.